look to my framework instead of his framework. Vote for my value of appropriate governmental action, because if we don't follow through with my value, then this is going to lead to a series of consequences, which are detailed in my contention level. So on to my framework. You're going to be looking to my argument that we have to focus on the human rights abuses going on at a domestic level, not the ones that are going on at the international level. We first turn to those provisions which define the obligations of government to meet certain reasonable needs of its citizens. One fundamental obligation of government is defined in many constitutions. Government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people. Each individual of the society has a right to be protected by it in the enjoyment of his life, liberty, and prosperity according to standing laws. Next, so now you're going to look to the Trend and 12 Orward 2 Valentino cards as well as the subpoints that come with all of them. Firstly, by intervening into a foreign country with human rights abuses, many different consequences will arise. To start, U.S. intervention in the Middle East causes China and Russia anti-U.S. cooperation, a catalyst for awful relations. Basically, intervening would lead to more of a consequence because these days China is even calling on Russia to ally due to pressures from the United States. Second, humanitarian intervention gives far too much of an incentive for the intervening nation to restructure the other's political system in a way most beneficial to them, not for the other country. As a result of intervening in a country, for example, let's say China, this allows the United States to benefit more rather than the people in the foreign country who actually need help from human rights abuses. For example, intervention in the name of humanitarianism too readily provides an alibi for the continued involvement of those interested in exploiting and controlling the resources and people of target states, which is actually a consequence for that country, because they need help with human rights abuses. And moreover, any legal international efforts does nothing to stop the abuse going on in the country. Next, the U.S. intervention has caused even more worse human rights abuses than those that existed prior to the intervention. One of the examples happens in Bosnia in the Middle East, when the United States eventually backed Croatian and Bosnian Muslim forces in an effort to block further aggression by Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. These forces drove more than 100,000 Serbs in the Krajina region of Croatia from their homes, killing hundreds of civilians in what the New York Times described as the largest single ethnic cleansing of the war. Therefore, this is an example where hundreds of civilians were killed in the U.S. efforts to intervene in human rights abuses. In order to escape these situations and prevent any risk, the U.S. should not be involved at all in a foreign country's human rights abuses in order to prevent any more abuse. Last, U.S. intervention kills civilians as collateral damage, which is empirically proven. So basically, collateral damage means is they don't mean to kill those people who are actually basically on the sidewalk while they're performing their major mission. So for an example, in the Black Hawk Down incident, U.S. troops killed at least 500 Somalis on that day, and as many as 1,500 during the rest of the mission, more than half of them women and children. As a result of its harmless attempt to aid at intervening in human rights abuses, the U.S. has killed 1,500 people and ended that many number of lives, which means that we should not be continuing with that sort of event hovering over our heads. So therefore, you're going to look to my framework first because it addresses the fact that the United States should focus on our human rights abuses instead of foreign human rights abuses, because that is going to be better because we won't commit types of actions that will lead to any consequences. Therefore, you're going to be voting negative in this round.